the Weird Things live stream. You guys ready to do some weird stuff today?
Oh yeah.
Oh my lord. Future Boy, Chris, that's your handle?
Correct. That is my Twitter handle, and I have it on various other forms of social media as well. I'm not always the first to Future Boy, but when I am, I make it count.
That's all that matters. I held off. I used
Chris.
to get everything, and then I held off on Snapchat because I'm like, well, that's teenagers where they're sharing naked pics. I don't want to be on there, and that's the one I regret that I didn't get Andrew Main on not because of that. I mean, now that
You
they're
really
growing
want to
up,
put your name on all those naked pics you've been sending teenagers?
Oh my God! Listen, got to build a fan base somehow.
Well, this took a weird turn.
Well, guess what? You're on Weird Things.
All right. Before we start the show, can we get an audio check from everybody? Brian, do you want to start us off?
Hello, it's Brian.
Okay. Andrew?
Hey, this is Andrew.
Y'all, this is... okay. Justin?
Hi, it's me, Justin Robert Young, your old seafaring podcast friend.
All right. Chris?
This is Chris Taylor, the soft-spoken Englishman who can bring his microphone closer if he needs to.
No, that's good. Andrew, can you give me one more again? Something a little longer, please?
This is Andrew. This is my longer thing because Bryce is just never satisfied. He's always picking and just saying it's not good enough. And,
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you, Bryce.
All right, if you guys are ready to go, I can count you in.
All right.
I am indeed.
All right, take it in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Weird Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined with my usual co-host, Brian Brushwood.
Hello.
Justin Robert Young.
Hi, friends. How are you?
And we've also got one of our favorite guests of all time. Probably you know that because we rarely have people back. But no, this gentleman here, deputy editor of Mashable?
Correct.
And at Future Boy on Twitter and all the social networks, author of my favorite nonfiction book of all time probably is Mr. Chris Taylor, author of How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. Available in paperback right now. Get it.
Hello. Hello, everyone. It's good to be back.
So, Chris, we had you on because we felt bad because you wrote a book about a topic nobody cares about. And, it's just one of these things where you chose something that was a niche thing that really wasn't getting much attention in the media and whatever, and you put your heart into it, and we appreciate that. And we just hope we could reward you, and maybe your subject matter will catch fire. Maybe other people take an interest in it. I wouldn't count on it.
I don't know why people aren't paying attention to Star Wars. I mean, I know it's a dull, dry topic that may distract from your daily media diet of reading about foreign news, but let's just try to focus on the important things, okay?
So,
I'm sure Noam Chomsky has a theory on this. I'm sure.
From somebody that spent so much time researching, Star Wars in general, but you spend a lot of times on the prequels and kind of what that meant for the franchise. By any available metric that you saw in researching it, are we more or less in hype mode for The Force Awakens now 3 weeks out than we were at a similar time in 1999, from your opinion?
No, I think this is 1999 all over again. I think that if there is a difference, it's the fact that just the marketing machine has become more coordinated. It is easier to instantly see a trailer online instead of spending 2 hours downloading the Phantom Menace trailer on a 56K connection. Not that I'm one of the people who did that. But it is, it's launching simultaneously around the world in multiple countries. I believe, England gets it slightly ahead of everyone else, but, then you've got to consider that, France is getting it as well. I mean, it's sort of this rolling Star Wars wave that's going to go around the world on December 17th, 18th.
Well, it seems like, thinking back to 1999, this is back when I still had a day job and there was a superior internet connection there. In fact, at the time, the hype around The Phantom Menace was one of the first times I was able to stream and download relatively high quality video content at the time. And you had specials on, Fox News with dubious content like the Under the Dome special about the psychology of R2-D2's fictitious prima donna persona.
I loved Under the Dome. That was one of the best mockumentaries they've ever done.
Well, but on top of that, they had all of these small segments where they would show the day that George Lucas sat down to a typewriter, and it almost seemed like folks over at Lucasfilm were working in collusion, I would say, with theforce.net, where every single day there were 3 or 4 posts of the latest names that were leaked or whatever. If there's a difference between the atmosphere now and the atmosphere then, it feels like they're a lot more savvy about giving less and making us want more. Because at the time, the hype around The Phantom Menace ended up being more enjoyable than The Phantom Menace itself. Whereas I feel like there's a very intentionally measured tone about what's officially released.
Yeah, and I feel like there was. In fact, I think that was the case until fairly recently, where it switched over from being Lucasfilm marketing in the driving seat to Disney marketing being in the driving seat. As soon as Disney came along, I think things got a little loose. Unfortunately, you would see promos showing up on the. I don't know if any of you watched the horrible ABC block where they did their Shonda Rhimes block of programming, and they made it a Force Awakens block. They had the casts of Scandal and Grey's Anatomy talking about how much they love Star Wars, and then right at the end of that 3-hour block, they finally give you this new trailer. But then that trailer did not go up online, whereas Lucasfilm was very good about saying, here's the trailer, now everyone in the world is going to see it at once. It's not just going to be all of us dweebs at Star Wars Celebration who get to see it, everyone gets to see it. The same thing with that behind-the-scenes footage they released at Comic-Con. But now that Disney's in charge, it seems that they're holding back a little bit. We didn't see that ABC trailer for, I think, about a day after it screened on TV.
Part of the reason is that their ad campaigns right now are still changing. So what came out 2 days ago, they're deciding what they're going to release in the next 3 days. They're looking at, they're saying, okay, are we going to focus more on this character because it played well with young men? And as they're doing stuff in, let's say, blocks to try to hit, we're sold. My brother's like, why are they still putting trailers? I said, because they want your wife to tell you she wants to see it. It's not about us anymore. It's about everybody else on the planet. And one of my friends who works for Disney says it's frustrating because they're trying to plan a week out or 2 weeks out stuff that's going to be going out in other properties, but they don't know. You're like, well, we don't know if we're going to release this yet or whatever. We're waiting until Monday to get this data, and it's just constantly changing, and he's in constant fear that they're going to show him stuff that he doesn't want to see too.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Don't show me that.
See anymore.
Well, we did just get one of the big pieces of news this week was that the invites went out for the world premiere on December the 14th. And,
check my mailbox.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to seeing that because then there are going to be those 3 days where I have to decide how much to talk about it with other people, and it's almost worse to see it ahead of everyone else for that reason.
Are you invited to the premiere?
Yep.
What?
So you are going to Man's Chinese theater there and seeing the premiere on the 14th.
I believe it's going to be El Capitan, but they haven't said that.
Right, but the important thing
this is so famous that it's such a no-brainer that you're going to accept that invitation. They didn't even give a location; it just said Hollywood, California.
Yeah, El Capitan's fun. It would be my first choice to see it.
The important thing is
that would be the most
Andrew
Main thing of all time to decline an invitation to the premiere of Star Wars because he was not pleased with the theater.
Man's Chinese or go home.
Yeah, I actually, they're doing, so El Capitan, for those who don't know, is actually a theater that Disney owns in Hollywood. And if you go see a Disney film there, they will very often do really cool shows beforehand. And do you know what they're doing for this one, Chris?
No.
I'll grab the flyer. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Real quick, Brian, I think I cut you off there.
Oh, that's right. I was just saying the important thing is how many plus 1, 2s, or 3s do you have on that invite that you're able to bring, and how are they for sale right now on eBay?
I was concerned that I was going to have to take my our entertainment editor rather than my wife,
Ah,
because he didn't get the invite till like 20 minutes later. So there was a period of time where, my wife was very concerned that she wasn't going to get to go to this. So, yeah.
So this is the first part of like what the El Capitan. That's the big flyer that says, "Hey, buy your tickets to see El Capitan." You open it up and you
Nice.
get, bam, right
Wow.
in your face.
Nice.
for the audio listeners, you're seeing a full bleed shot of an explosion on Jakku.
Correct.
So what they have going on is that they have apparently something called like for Big Hero 10 or 6 or whatever
Hero
that was.
6.
Yeah.
Which I loved. They had Baymax came out and danced, which was all right. But for the Muppet movie, they actually had Kermit and Miss Piggy sing The Rainbow Connection, which was amazing.
Wow.
For this, we get what's something called a lightsaber curtain show,
Wow.
which
So it's like a
Laser
70s style laser show.
curtain show. So do you suppose that's like a choreographed fight scene with lightsabers, or just a laser show? That
I think it might be a laser show with some Lucasfilm sound effects. It kind of that's what I would guess based on that picture.
we'll rely on Chris to give.
The irony being that so many theaters now are saying you can't bring a lightsaber.
Oh, really?
No fake weapons. I've seen this. I think Cinemark put up these posters saying no fake weapons allowed. And it
Well, you know what the
brackets,
solution is that
blasters / lightsabers. Like,
You know
as
what?
if they're the same thing.
the solution is that everybody should bring laser pointers. They're like
Yes.
virtual lightsabers, and I'm sure that'll disturb fewer people.
Finally, we'll bring it back to 1999, whether or not anybody wants to or not.
That
All right,
was
so
actually in the news when Phantom Menace premiered in '99. They also had a bill go through, I believe, the California House, banning laser pointers in theaters and classrooms. Yep, there it is. There's the passes. No face coverings,
my
face paint,
Lord.
simulated
What-
weapons,
man,
slash passes.
I remember being convinced that there was no way to stop the laser pointer infection, but it just sort of went away. I can't remember the last time I went to a public event that anyone pulled out a laser pointer at.
I think it kind of went out of as soon as
fashion.
it wasn't a technical novelty. It's like you are the biggest nard on the planet if you bring a laser pointer just to screw with something. Like
the same as
nobody-
just screaming in the middle of a quiet concert.
Yeah, nobody's like, oh, LOL, that's hilarious. Look, there's a dot there. Chris, since the last time you were on, I think we've just naturally built a reservoir of Star Wars questions for which we would like to ask you, and I'll start things off with this.
Bring them on.
George Lucas has been in the news over the last week talking about Star Wars and him letting go of it as a breakup, and that there was an element of trauma to it. You spend a lot of time in How Star Wars Conquered the Universe telling the story of George Lucas and his very complicated relationship with this property. Where was the script for Episode 7? I don't know if it was called Force Awakens at that point. Where was that script? Was there like a line by line people could do a table read script, or was it just bullet points that Lucas handed over?
There was a treatment, and he actually had to be persuaded to hand it over. He initially expected Disney to give him $4 billion with sight unseen, without actually seeing the treatment for episodes 7, 8, 9. Because I think he'd work out treatments for all of them, and they had to persuade him. They had to say, no, we're not going to give you this money until you actually show us the treatments. And he was saying, no, trust me. And I'm sure they were in their minds saying, no, George, we saw episodes 1, 2, and 3. We don't trust you. So that's where it was. But I think it was fairly early on in the process that they kind of abandoned his treatment idea. I think it was very much no harm, no foul. He's actually talked about it before. He talked about it in the publicity for his very, very bad animated movie, Strange Magic. He was asked, again, wherever this guy goes, he's asked the Star Wars question. And he said then, yeah, Disney have thrown out what I did. So, and he seemed at peace with it then. And, it is like a breakup. He made that metaphor with Charlie Rose, and I think it was perfect. It was like, you don't drive by the house. What he neglected to mention was that he's actually been talking on the phone with J.J. Abrams quite a lot, and that they're quite friendly. And George has a cell phone now, which is a pretty big deal.
It's an advancement. Welcome to the million years ago. So here's what's interesting to me. I was part of, and I think you touched on this in How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. You talked about the fact that upon acquiring Lucasfilm, Disney sort of just issued this edict that all of the expanded universe was apocryphal, that was a new category we're calling legends, which means folklore around the campfire. It doesn't count. It's not real. The only things that are real are the prequels, the trilogy, and our current cartoons showing on the Disney Channel.
Correct.
At the time, I was somebody who was very, very upset. I felt like I had invested years and years of watching some of the world's most talented science fiction authors construct, this strange and wonderful hodgepodge universe where they made excuses for all of the bizarre stuff that we saw. How can parsecs be a unit of speed measurement and so on? And at the time, I felt really gypped. And yet, on the eve of The Force Awakens, I realize the other side of that. Now that I've paid the price of my disappointment of having the expanded universe yanked from me, all of a sudden I realize that I have the gift that I haven't had since 1983. Going into all the prequels, everybody knew exactly what was going to happen because they gave all the secrets out ahead of time, and because all it was fulfillment on promises made 20 years earlier. Now I get to go into a Star Wars movie honestly having virtually no idea what I'm in store for. Do you think that was their intention? Because I realized not only do I get the mystery of not knowing what's going on, but also now if all of a sudden a mysterious blue-skinned, glowing, red-eyed alien admiral shows up, I will be beside myself. Whereas before it would have just been like, yeah, bro, I read it in the books. But by telling me the books don't exist, all of a sudden I have the chance to be really excited about a cameo like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can have the possibilities are endless at this stage, and that was something they mentioned at the time when they put that post up explaining why the expanded universe is going away. One of the things was we didn't want to be creatively limited in Episode 7, and I think that's absolutely right. I mean, but what they also made quite clear was that we can mine the expanded universe for spare parts, and everyone's wondering where Luke Skywalker is. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out in this movie or next movie that he's been spending a lot of his time with a certain red-haired lady, and the fans would just lose their minds, right? If it turns out Mara Jade is in this thing after all.
Avengers crossover, Scarlett Johansson.
I mean, it makes sense. This is like the Patton Oswalt thing where he was talking on Parks and Recreation about the crossover with the Marvel universe.
The expanded universe, a lot of it's fun, but there are a lot of inconsistencies in there. And the last thing you want to be, if you're J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan or something like, all right, yeah, this guy we paid $10,000 for, or a little bit more, to write one of these books. He gets to decide. That's when George was late at night at 3 a.m. said, yeah, kill Chewie. Sorry, that's fact. And then just to have to decide the fate of a humongously multi-billion-dollar franchise on what was already written, which some of it's good, a lot of it's not good.
Well, there is. I mean, I've described it often as kind of a very drastic amputation to avoid a reboot later down the line. They chop the limbs off, but the patient is still alive. It's so much of the expanded universe canon was pretty awful, and I think that the new story group at Lucasfilm wanted a tighter control over what was going to happen. Even the folks inside Lucasfilm who've read every book don't necessarily like the expanded universe. But we already know, by the way, that I don't know how far we want to go into spoiler territory here, but J.J. Abrams has talked about it quite openly. The super weapon that shows up in The Force Awakens is actually something out of the expanded universe.
Well, and there's a part of me that could go along for the ride on this, because if you think about it, similar to the Greek mythology legends of old, it's like everyone would have the story of the one time Hercules came rolling through town, and no matter what campfire you're around, they would all insist it happened in that cantina right over there. And it seems like these larger than life characters from the Star Wars universe would certainly have stories about them told throughout. So so to me, I kind of don't mind it just being in the Legends category. That's what everyone says in this planet.
And they seem to be making use of that in the new film as well. You know, that whole line of there are stories about the Jedi, about the dark side, and Han Solo has to say, yes, it's all true. So I like that they're playing with the mutability of stories and the way that they get exaggerated.
So, Chris, as things have spun up here, and we have begun to see not only more of this story through trailers and clips, but also the fan reaction has kind of built up. Has there anything that's been really surprising to you following this franchise as close to it as you has?
I'm actually surprised, and I think Lucasfilm was pretty surprised as well, that we haven't had more overt leaks. I mean, everyone who reads MakingStarWars.net pretty much knows everything that's coming up in the new film. You know, that guy has excellent sources. He's been proved right time and time again, so you can pretty much find it if you want it. But other than that, it's like it's not common knowledge. The spoilers of the film are not common knowledge. And there were certainly people on the inside at Lucasfilm who I've spoken to, who I spoke to about 18 months ago, who said, you know, we're going to be a year out from this thing and everyone's going to know the plot line. You know, that was their fear. And I think that even though the information is sort of out there, people don't want to know it. And that is surprising to me.
Well, we've seen, I mean, compared to 99, we're in a totally different culture in terms of movie journalism online, right? Which is where theoretically you got so much of that. I mean, 99 was the heyday of the Ain't It Cool News, you know, scoop in all caps, you know, just script reviews and stuff like that. Where, you know, we had this week there was a very fascinating thing where a reputable, I guess, but lesser known superhero blog reported who Star-Lord's parents were going to be in the new Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn comes out and says, number one, they're wrong. And number two, why is this a story? Like, why is this something that we want to report on? And you saw a lot of other larger movie blogs, I mean, I'm sure probably to protect their relationship with a very forthright James Gunn, come out and stand with him. That this is not a story. That plot spoilers are something that can be found, but they're not going to get the play at the top rungs of movie journalism in the same way. And I mean, I guess that's probably the difference, right?
Well, yeah, part of it is we've less tolerance for people who get it wrong. I think because we have so much more information out there right now that wasting our time on, you know, incorrect spoilers.
Oh, so you think that maybe it's for you know, it's that element of like, well, we don't want to get burnt in case this is not a correct leak.
Well, and plus,
but I think part of it is like it doesn't. I think we've had enough experience. It doesn't make it better to know. You know, it's that, you know, we've had enough times where we've gone into things knowing and gone like, yeah, wish I didn't know that. Wish I didn't know that. Wish that was a surprise.
I don't think I want to pin it on a massive cultural awakening that we have so much as I think it boils down to I think it boils down to the artist has made it clear that they've wrapped a present for us, and they've made it clear that you'll enjoy the present much more if you leave it wrapped until Christmas Day. And I think that's all it takes. Whereas in '99, I don't think that was the culture. I think there was some kind of, there was a culture of pro leaks, pro hype, pro everything. You know, working with the likes of theforce.net and so on. That I think is, I think it's the equivalent of back in the day. We had the Grateful Dead saying, "Yeah, man, bootleg every single one of our concerts. Go, 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 go." And so people did. Whereas now, I think people are saying, you know, or Disney is saying, you know, look, we're trying very hard to craft something special for you. It's only going to be special if you get surprises. So why don't you play on board? I think people are going along with that.
I don't think that's
I think it's Lucasfilm that is saying that, and I think that Disney is sort of excited to get as much of it out there as they possibly can.
I think that we're a generation that grew up earlier on spoilers and it didn't pay off. I as much as I like to think it's this respect, well, that's the way the artist wants it to be done. I don't think that's the case. So I think it's just that in our little primitive reptilian brains that, well, when I went in and I heard this and then it happened, I didn't like it as much. And it's not going to be as fun as the little twist or the surprise that come along.
Well, I think it can certainly be you know, elements of both of those in terms of, you know, if you're the site, then you determine whether or not the headline here's the big twist from The Force Awakens is going to help or hurt your site and whether or not the clicks that you are going to get on it. And so I think, Andrew, you're totally right that, like, you know, now I have less of a desire largely because there's better genre stuff out there. You know, I think the reason why I used to read as many script reviews and stuff as possible were because, you know, pre-X-Men, right, or Blade before that, like, you know, most superhero stuff was garbage, you know, and people didn't take the characters seriously. In a world now where it's like, now we're looking at Batman v Superman and saying, too serious, maybe too serious. Maybe we need to dial it back and throw a few more jokes in here. It's not like I think it's far more likely that I'm just going to walk into a movie and like it as opposed to it just being a soulless sucking cash grab. And even then, if it's like, you know, not to name any Fantastic Four names, you know, if it's something super disappointing, then you know, there's just red flags on it going into it, and then the reviews will be negative.
Well, on that note, Chris, we were at Star Wars Celebration, and we were decided to just from the hotel room though watch the part of the big announcement and all that, and then we noticed that they said, "Oh, a certain director's got the flu," you know, and you're thinking like, man, of all the things that you would, you know, show up for, announcing your own Star Wars film, you know, there. Any?
You're talking about the oh gosh, what's his name?
Josh Trank.
Josh Trank.
The director
quickly
Fantastic
suddenly threw a sickie that day. That was quite a scramble behind the scenes, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, that was weird. And the guy who did show up, oh gosh, I'm forgetting everyone's name now. Godzilla director.
Gareth Edwards.
Yeah, he sort of seemed not too thrilled to be there either. I mean, he was pouring on the dry British wit a little too thick, I thought. You know, you need to be just a little bit more excited for this crowd. But you know, I think he's got it. I think he understands the Star Wars audience. I just don't think he was particularly happy to be there that day, and certainly not happy that Trank had left him alone on the stage.
Is Ryan Johnson still scheduled to do one of the standalone films? Oh no, he's doing the next sequel, right?
He's doing episode 8.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did he show up at Celebration?
He did not, no. I believe because episode 8 was already in progress, and that was right around the time he had to go and film Mark Hamill on that Irish island, right? Which has been the source of what people call a spoiler, but is not. You know, it's been fully reported in the media that Mark Hamill is doing recording for episode 8 already. So,
well, and that was where he was allegedly injured. Was that where some of that came in? Was that?
Yeah, apparently that bit was false.
Yeah,
he may have tripped once on a path, and that suddenly becomes, you know, Harrison Ford level injury.
How long until rumors of the Star Wars curse start to permeate?
So I mean, you mentioned that it was a big rush around Josh Trank leaving. It seems like what Star Wars is building is a very Disney Marvel-esque kind of machine where everything has a place, everything is written and rewritten within an inch of its life, so it can get to the best stage possible. And that's what I was touching on before with the original script is. It feels like, and from what I've heard from behind the scenes of some of the Marvel movies and stuff like that like everything that we hear is usually about 3 to 4 months delayed of decisions that were made quietly behind the scenes, but before stuff goes on. So it's like at the point that we heard that Michael Arndt was leaving as writer and JJ and Kasdan were going to be taking over, it seems like something that the more I've learned about that system, or at least the Marvel one, which it seems like Star Wars is taking the blueprint from, that's something that probably happened far closer to the sale than we were kind of led to believe. What have you seen from that machine as it prepares to become this cultural force?
It's actually a little disturbing that they seem to have gone the opposite direction. I mean, they did wait a long time to replace Arndt, even though it seems that he was rather too slow on his script writing, and that was ultimately the reason why he was dropped from the project. but also both JJ and Lawrence Kasdan have talked about the fact that they didn't even have the story in hand. Like by the end of 2013, you know, they're about to start filming and they're still working on the story. Which, you know, as soon as I heard them say that, that was a little disturbing. But at the same time, you know, we were just talking a little earlier off air about Doctor Who, and something else that was revealed on that this week was that awesome 50th anniversary Doctor Who that everyone loved. You know, that only fell into place like literally days beforehand. You know, they didn't get John Hurt as the special war doctor until right at the end. So,
Hey,
you know,
the
it
Hobbit
seems...
trilogy came together last minute, and that turned out fine.
Well, yeah. And
LOL,
it's interesting
JK.
It's interesting how much we're getting. It's like there's no statute of limitations on this stuff anymore. And they just want to spill. You know, Peter Jackson just wants to talk about what a nightmare that shoot was and how close to the wire he was and how little he knew that he was doing. I hope
And
that's
he gets to do that because despite that, they made, you know, billions of dollars, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
and I guess that's the difference. If you are on a genuinely miserable shoot that makes no money, and in a world where everybody has a social media output, everyone has their own megaphone, and you're the guy who talks about how bad the shoot is, you are the guy who's shouting sour grapes about a project that went bad. However, when a project makes a gajillion dollars, you're the guy talking about the reality of how difficult it is to make a beautiful piece of art.
Well, or even in the case, I think we're all referring to the Peter Jackson Hobbit behind the scenes thing that wound up making the blog runs there. But like, you know, there's a scene. I mean, as if not to put too fine a point on it, they have a shot of Peter Jackson in the throne room. Of course, The Hobbit is story spoilers for a book that came out a billion years ago. This shot here, you know, of him, you know, the story is about Oakenshield eventually being corrupted by gold after this grand journey, and this is like Peter Jackson in the spot of Oakenshield as this gigantic money grab, you know, on top of a fantastic, the defining trilogy of his career kind of crumbles around him due to ill preparation. Like it was. I thought that was remarkable. That was insane to see somebody
I guess,
of that stature do that.
I was. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
It was so refreshing because it's. I mean, this is what we wanted to hear from George Lucas around the prequels. I think, you know, and it's what we sort of objectively know about the prequels, that he was writing them. He was writing those scripts right up until I think 2 days before on Attack of the Clones and like 3 days on Phantom Menace, and you know, he was always going down to the wire, and he was always just coming up with new ideas the last minute, not giving it a rewrite, not giving it anyone else to polish,
and writing them in post too, transferring digital lips onto actors, and you know, I'll have them say this, and you're like,
I know, exactly, yeah. After the fact, changing the mouth movements after the fact. I mean, just all this stupid shit where we know intuitively, we know he didn't know what he was doing, but he just won't come out and say it in the way that Peter Jackson has. So I hope that this is a new kind of honesty in directing that we're seeing here.
Speaking of honest directors, Ron Howard came out on a podcast this week and mentioned that he, as well as Spielberg, and I forget who else, were approached by George Lucas to direct the prequels. You have a great anecdote in How Star Wars Conquered the Universe about Lucas coming to Kasdan with the script and Kasdan not touching it because, you know, if he wasn't going to let him change Anakin Skywalker from a baby to, at the very least, a teenager, if not somebody in his 20s, then he didn't want to, you know, want anything to do with it. What do you know about George's search for collaborators with the prequels and the ultimate result that nobody worked with him?
Well, he did work with a couple of you know, writers on the Indiana Jones prequels, the TV show, but that was about it. And even then, it doesn't seem to have made much impact on the script. No, I mean, Lucas is and always has been something of a control freak. You know, he has his vision, and it's absolutely set, and no one is going to change it. And he did actually say that about Kasdan. I mean, the anecdote you're referring to is apparently, I think, several months before Episode 1 was due to start shooting, he went to Kasdan and asked him to do a polish on the script. And that was reported at the time, and Kasdan said no, you know, George should go do his own thing. You know, which seemed seemed reasonable at the time. You know, Lucas wrote the original Star Wars. He wrote Episode 4, so why shouldn't he write Episode 1? You know, you should do the beginning of every trilogy and set out your vision. But also, Lucas later on said, yeah, I realized that I didn't want to cast him because he was telling me the same thing that everyone else was telling me, which is don't make Anakin Skywalker 9-year-old. You know, which is the most obvious thing in hindsight.
What do you suppose it was that drove Lucas to insist on that so hard? You know, in the face of it, I understand, you know, artistic creation often comes in the face of what everyone tells you to do. But what was he thinking, I guess, in other words, as best you could tell?
Well, it was a little bit of that. I mean, you know, this is a guy whose first 2 films were slashed by the studios, and, you know, he never recovered from that. But also, I think you've got to remember that he was a dad of 3. And, you know, one of my favorite descriptions of George Lucas from Insiders at Lucasfilm is just, you know, 2 words, geek dad. You know, this is the guy who he is. He basically, you know, there's a sense in which he made Phantom Menace for his kids. He wanted it to be relatable to his kids, who were about that age at the time. And, yeah, you know, when you see the early drafts of Phantom Menace, it's so much smarter. Jar Jar Binks talks like Buddha. I mean, you know, and Anakin is this creepy little, you know, Christ child, which I think totally would have worked if you played it more like The Omen, you know. Which seems that he originally did, and then he threw that script out and said, "No, that's too grown up. That's too adult. I want this to be more for younger children."
Do you think it's a case where he committed the crime of trying to write for what he imagines kids would want, and in doing so, just lost touch? I mean, that the beauty of Star Wars is that everything plays to adults, and oh, by the way, kids love it because flashing lights and princesses and lightsaber duels.
Yeah, and he has talked over the years of the importance of trying to get into the fantasy life of a teenage girl. Like, you know, there's a huge untapped market. And that is indeed part of what he was thinking, apparently, with Strange Magic. Whereas, really, you know, it's when you look at what they want, what they go see, it's more like, you know, they want Hunger Games. They want to be Katniss. You know, you want to be the best dressed rebel in history. And, you know, I think what Lucas was thinking there was just way off base.
You know, and you go back and you watch, I just talked with this, the woman who lives next door to me, her little daughter dressed as Princess Leia for Halloween, and she's the one that tries to ambush the little boy who lives on the other side of me with a lightsaber. Like, there's like constant Star Wars battles here all the time. And I was talking to the mom, and she said, yeah, you know, I just watched the movie again and realized how badass Princess Leia is. And you look like, oh yeah, like, she's the inciting incident. She's trying to escape with the plans. She gets caught, but she's not caught because she's a dainty princess that gets kidnapped. She's on this mission, and she's a soldier of war, basically captured. And then when her rescuers come, spoiler alert about Star Wars, you know, is they kind of have a half-assed plan, and she has to figure things out for them. And she's super proactive from there. And one of the strongest, you know, female, you know, you think like, when did we first start seeing really strong female characters in science fiction? You know, it was a 2 years later, we got Ellen Ripley in Alien. And I think that if you look at Carrie Fisher and the Princess Leia in Star Wars, and you go, man, that's a really strong character. And we did not see that even in the other, more of her as a romantic interest in Empire, more so in Jedi. And then in the prequels is, you know, we're given Amidala as this title. She's a senator and she's giving speeches and stuff, but it's more of a role than action.
She's a senator, but also a queen who was elected.
Yeah. Who just throws Jar Jar in as her deputy when she has to head off and flirt with Anakin on Naboo. I mean, it's just crazy.
What could go wrong? I like I think we talked about it before. There's the YouTube cut that explains that Jar Jar is probably like the ultimate Sith master. And
yes, yeah, I saw that theory floating around a lot and treated way more seriously than I think its author intended.
Oh yeah, the guy who wrote it, you could tell it was tongue in cheek. You know, that it was a tongue, but it was funny that people didn't quite pick up his, you know.
I said this in the book. It's like, you know, it's almost what Lucas does to Jar Jar in Attack of the Clones is sort of like saying, oh, well, you think Jar Jar ruined the galaxy far, far away? Turned out he literally did.
Yeah.
He was literally the one to propose the emergency powers. But yeah, it's funny that going back to Princess Leia and the strong female character. So much of that comes from the fact that she just has these amazing one-liners, right? It's up until that point of the movie, Han Solo gets all the good one-liners, and then she comes along, and Luke walks into the cell, and she's like, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" Yeah. All of that dialogue, none of it is Lucas. All of it is Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz, who really punched up that section of the film and really, took Lucas's wordiness and turned it into these fantastic one-liners.
In your book, and I cannot recommend his book, again, it's How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. He goes through, Chris goes through every iteration of that script. And if you're an artist and you want to create something and you want to see what it takes to, where did this thing start from, and what would have happened? What would the Star Wars be if Lucas had his own way? If you pick up, there's a graphic novel right now called The Star Wars, which you read this thing and it is the worst Dune Flash Gordon fanfic you've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
and that's with a polish put on it. I mean, it was written by Jonathan Renslow, who did all the making of Star Wars books, and and he's a Lucasfilm guy, and he's going to put the best possible spin on this original script for Star Wars, and even he can't polish this turd.
So I think my favorite part about that, and then we can go to your question, Brian, is just the dead Gandalf rip that Obi-Wan initially was, that he's just like almost like just like the Kmart Gandalf lines from The Hobbit that he has when he first meets Luke.
When he was Ben Kenobi, before he was Obi-Wan, he was this sort of giggling Gandalf character, literally lifting lines from The Hobbit.
So before we move on, I just want to speak to the legacy of Princess Leia as a fantastic feminist character. That we hear echoes of this all the way down to recently Star Wars Battlefront came out, and on the Rebels side, when you get the benefit of being one of the big heroes, one of the massively overpowered characters, there's three characters. You can be Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, or Princess Leia, right? Likewise, we also see Disney distancing itself. I think there was an article, I don't know if it's BS or not, of Disney saying that they're going to wind down any kind of merchandising or imagery of Leia in the slave outfit. Is that what do you think that speaks to, as far as is that some over PC-ness, or is that what's the motivation behind that?
Well, I mean, there was a bit of a kerfuffle this summer when parents, I believe, in Philadelphia went to a Target there, and they saw that the only Leia merchandise was little slave Leia figures, and they felt uncomfortable having to explain that to their kids. And there was a Lego Star Wars movie where the cover was just, everyone was wearing their clothes except Leia. And some kids were asking their parents, like, why is Leia the only one who's in a bikini here? And the parents were like,
Chewbacca's naked, guys.
I mean, he does have a bandolier.
He's got the belt.
It's actually a hairpiece. I don't want to bring that up, but yeah, he's actually bald underneath all of that.
Yeah.
No,
Jabba naked.
At the same time, there was a movement among the fans to rename Slave Leia as Slayer Leia.
Slayer Leia.
Yeah.
Oh, Slayer, because she does murder a sentient being in that outfit. That's a good point.
Exactly. And it's not about her being a slave. It's about her being positive. And
it's better than them just doing the reverse find and replace on Huck Finn.
Yeah, it is sort of a little bit of whitewashing history, but at the same time, I mean, you got to remember, around Return of the Jedi, Leia's character, I know Carrie Fisher said that she felt completely divorced from Leia's character by that point, that she asked for something more from her, something real, something she could relate to, something that just sort of suggested the post-traumatic stress of having a planet full of billions of people annihilated in front of you and no one ever mentioned it again. And then she gets a bikini instead of that. So I'm like, yeah, okay.
You watch Star Wars and you look at, when she's consoling Luke because his aunt and uncle died, and Ben just died, and the aunt and uncle, that was like hours ago, and then she's like, you poor guy, and he's like, yeah, it's all about me. You wouldn't understand, you know
it's
what I'm
not like I'm the reason for an entire planet's genocide because I decided to play chicken and call the bluff of an imperial empire with a super weapon. Like, oh yeah, look at me.
That is that great, Robot Chicken sketch where they have Carrie Fisher say exactly what Leia should have said in that scene. Oh, I'm sorry. Did the 80-year-old man who died yesterday, who you just met yesterday, just die? I didn't notice. I was getting over the murder of 4 billion people on my planet. Stuff like that. Which is just all this stuff. When you stop and think about it in Star Wars, it's like, wow, there are 2 genocides in the original movie. That's a bit weird. But, it just goes so fast, you don't even get time to think about this stuff. But Leia was supposed to have a command in in Return of the Jedi. Instead of just going to the moon of Endor and, meeting Ewoks, she was supposed to be in charge of that mission. And then they give it to General Solo, who has done way less for the rebellion than she has. So, so I can see the concern about the bikini and I can see that the reason why they've decided to make her General Organa in the new movie.
I mean, do you think it's a case where, in 2015 it just seems a little bit silly to, like, we see that I could hear somebody make a case that in 1983 or 82, I forget when, audiences wouldn't have been ready to see, a female commanding a regiment or whatever. But is it a case that in 2015, not only are we ready for it, but we think it's weird that she wasn't?
Yeah, now it looks weird that she got passed over. But it's like this evolving thing. Like in 1977, it didn't seem weird that Chewbacca didn't get a medal.
Yes, that's true.
And now it's one of the first things that people point to.
It took the MTV Music Awards or the MTV Movie Awards to fix that.
He wasn't the captain of the vessel, which I'm sorry, guys.
But it was also, in 1977, you still had a lot of people who saw the scene with the bartender telling the droids to wait outside. We don't serve that kind in here, and that was still something.
That's legit. I mean, droids.
Wait.
are
You know what's funny about that scene? 30 seconds before, C-3PO is upset about the Jawas fondling the land speeder, and he calls them disgusting creatures. And then we get him all of a sudden getting kicked out of the place. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's kind of cool that he's prejudiced against them. They're like, oh no, you can't come in here.
You go ahead and try bringing your Roomba into a bar in Oakland and see whether or not they take kindly to it. They'll make you bring that thing right out.
They don't even accept Google Glass. Then I got to.
No, God, no.
Man, you know what? That is a weird parallel where it's like you're right. I mean, it's like that really puts into stark contrast the fact that they really did regard, I mean, rightly so, droids as equipment, and it's like, don't bring your filthy Google Glass in here. We're a classy, upscale hipster joint in the middle of the villainous hive of scum and villainy.
That's right. The cantina is hipster joint. It suddenly all makes sense. That's why they're playing old swing music.
That's right. Right.
No, definitely. It was, they should CGI PBR into put a few mustaches on them.
Yeah. Stick some DJs in there, like ready to play that vinyl.
No, that's what he's talking about when he says he has the death sentence. Like that means it's a really cool band.
That's his upcoming mixtape he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually an account on SoundCloud. His friend
before
does.
it was cool.
Yeah. Okay, so man, we're running. We're just barreling through this.
I got a non-Star Wars bit of news.
Okay.
Well, here, hold on. Before we get to that, let's remind everybody: Patreon.com/weirdthings is where you can support this very, very program, and let us know that you appreciate us bringing top tier authors like Chris on the program. Patreon.com/weirdthings. Thank you to everybody who is supporting now and everybody who will support in the future. You guys are the best.
Popular authors like Chris Taylor and only Chris Taylor
appear on the show.
That's fine. That's all we need, baby.
I can appear in a wig.
So we had an exciting development this week in the realm of space exploration. The very, very stealthy company Blue Origin, which is being bankrolled by Jeff Bezos, who there's not a lot of information about the company itself. They're supposed to have some amazing headquarters in Seattle where apparently, somebody doing research onto this went and dug through trash cans and stuff and was able to find out some of the backstory on, what they're working on. They're supposed to have a giant Jules Verne spaceship in the lobby. And what Bezos has been doing with Blue Origin is they've been trying to develop their own rocket engines and their own delivery vehicles, and they have their own plan to space. And the first thing that they want to do, it looks like it's more aimed towards space tourism, is a single stage rocket. And they did a first. They did a first. They had the first single stage upright vertical rocket. There's so many qualifiers in there, but it's really significant. They had a rocket called the New Shepard, which took off from its launch pad in Texas, went up to the quote space barrier, which is like 60 miles, 70 miles up, and then detached its little capsule, which then parachuted. There was some question, was it damaged or not? And then the rocket, the main body, then landed back down on Earth. And it is it's an amazing achievement. And there were a lot of comparisons that were made to what SpaceX was done, which isn't really fair to either company, because what Blue Origin did was significant. It absolutely is very, very. And that's Emily Calandrelli, who we had on our show when I was at the CTS launch.
MCal Space Gal, our friend on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, the difference is that what SpaceX is doing is they're trying to send a rocket make it go orbital, and they have a much larger rocket that has to go up and then go basically horizontal over the horizon and then flip back down and land back down at first at the ocean, which they've done soft landings on a landing pad. It's a very, very different challenge. It's going Mach 5 or 6 or something versus this, which is going Mach 1. Both are really cool. We live in a world where we have awesome companies creating really cool things. The only check mark against Blue Origin was, they filed a patent on the use of barges to retrieve rockets, and they were going to try to block SpaceX from doing that, but SpaceX got that overturned. So it's kind of my one little crit on that.
All right. Everything is great. This is exciting. Private space travel. Period. Let's appreciate that for what it is as we return. New paragraph. Billionaire fight!
Yes.
Gather around as two egomaniacal, brilliant, genius billionaires snipe at each other on Twitter. This was handled by by Blue Origin and Jeff Bezos very much, both subliminally and out in your face.
Both subliminally and subblatantly.
That was not a subtweet by any stretch of the imagination.
The way that Bezos announced this on Twitter is in our hangar sits the rarest of beasts, a rocket that we can reuse and is just ready to gas up again. Number one, the fact that their announcement centered on the fact that they landed a rocket that went to space, very much positioned PR-wise as a first and something that needs to be recognized. And specifically, the unsaid is the first that SpaceX didn't do first. And the rarest of beasts, if you remember, it was Elon Musk that said it was more likely that unicorns would be dancing around the launch pads than a Blue Origin reusable rocket.
Wait. Let's qualify that. There was an argument, there was a dispute over Launch Pad 39B in Cape Canaveral, and SpaceX wanted to have the lease on it. And Blue Origin said, no, we want the lease. We want this. We challenge your lease. Blue Origin went in there and tried to get into their SpaceX business and said, no, we want to do this. And that's when Elon Musk says, I will sooner believe there will be a unicorn dancing in the exhaust on that launch pad by the time you guys are ready to put a rocket off from Canaveral over there.
Yes.
Blue Origin has been testing these other things. They already blew up one of their rockets up, and at least one rocket up there. And so this is the same part of Texas or in roundabouts where SpaceX have been doing their Grasshopper launches years ago. So
yes, but that's and thank you for providing context. That's if one were to say that Jeff Bezos wanted to get all up in Elon's business, using the term rarest of beasts after he used the unicorn thing, might be one way to do it. Who knows whether or not that's true? What is absolutely true is that Elon Musk did not take these tweets lying down and had the following quote, not quite rarest, quote unquote, SpaceX Grasshopper rocket did 6 suborbital flights 3 years ago and is still around, which I think, again, we are team Brad stuff in space. That's what we are for. We are very excited by everything that happens in that realm. aside from the brilliant advancement in space, I don't think it was either of those men's personal finest hour to get into what seems to be a bit of a public slap fight.
Well, and also just a poorly written one as well. It's like at the moment of your genuine triumph, Bezos, are you sure what you want to do? How many drafts do you think he did before you figure out the right way to throw a veiled in your face to Elon Musk? And I suspect Elon had exactly 0 drafts in his rebuttal because it smacks of like, nuh-uh. I mean, that's it.
And a big part of this, I think, too, was fueled by the idiotic coverage that it got when it happened. When you had, every Verge, Verge, some of the other ones, the first ones to cover it. I'm sure Mashable had fine coverage. I'm absolutely sure. Everybody else, the person covering it didn't want to explain the grasshopper, didn't understand the context of it, and had to be corrected in their comments by people going, well, no, actually, SpaceX did this. The X-15 was reusable, and then why are you covering this thing? And it was just the trash talk that was in the headlines that should not have been there.
Well, no, I mean, let's talk real man-to-man talk here. I mean, it's clear when you look at the videos of both of those launch and landing vehicles, it's clear that Musk has the length, but Bezos has more girth. It's a
but it's much smaller, Brian. It's much smaller.
Oh, is it? Okay, that's not clear from the photos or my fantasies.
There's not much in it too. All it can do is maybe go up for like a little bit, and then it just falls back down.
I see. Okay, I see.
I kept thinking when this news was announced, I kept thinking of the scene in Austin Powers.
Oh yes.
The whole thing at the end with the rocket that looks like a Johnson.
Yes.
Love that scene. That's exactly what this looks like. I mean, even when you look at the images of the the New Shepard rocket, which is just aerodynamically and unfortunately shaped.
It's the blue origin of the species.
Yeah. And in fact, our excellent Mashable coverage by the excellent Miriam Kramer, formerly of Space.com, who really knows what she's talking about, was still headlined, Elon Musk is trying to bait Jeff Bezos into a rocket measuring contest.
Ah, accurate.
But know what? I think we do need this, though. I think that this is the sort of stuff that gets people actually interested in the private space race, and much rather this than dry statistics about rockets, right?
Absolutely. It's what I think. My frustration as a person who consumes so much of this was the bad science writing, the bad technical writing of not knowing what was at stake here, but getting excited about the fight, and then we kind of lose the achievement, and you get people going, well, SpaceX. I'm wearing a SpaceX hat. I'm very, very pro SpaceX, but I'm also excited to know more about what Blue Origin's doing. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for all of them. But when I see people who should know better covering it, who are not doing their job. And then we kind of lose, and it becomes very, very quickly where our interest will fall once we move on to some other,
And I'm sure this would never happen at Mashable, but what I am positive does happen in many other sites that write at the kind of volume that many of these sites write at, is what you are effectively looking at is an email comes in, a press release email comes in from Blue Origin. And people are rewriting the facts and the quotes from that PR email and then finding the most provocative headline that you can put on top of it. And, I think the where we are in a very fortunate position is that amazing space exploration companies have savvy PR departments for which they are using to trumpet their achievements and take veiled slaps at their rivals. But if you are just rewriting the press release, then what you are saying are things like first and never done before, and the language that is right there in the PR email that might not really be true. That is something
and
that
just 5 minutes of Googling would give you a better article. Yeah, I know exactly the kind of trend in journalism that you're talking about, and it is disreputable, and I really wish that people would pay more attention and have more pride in what they're writing a lot of times. That's certainly what I try to bring to the party.
But also, I think it's fine to acknowledge that it's the nature of our current society. I don't know if you happen to read Ryan Holiday's wonderful book, Trust Me, I'm Lying, where he talks about when he worked for American Apparel, he took advantage of the fact that he knew that bloggers needed to post 5, 6, 7, 12 times a day, and that they didn't have time to fact check, and he would do what he called trading up the chain, posting an article at the least reputable blogs, and then sending emails to slightly more reputable local news stations, then up and up and up, and hopefully hit the likes of Mashable, Gizmodo, and so on. And then before you know it, you're on the Wall Street Journal. I think that's just an artifact of it is an unfortunate artifact of what I think on balance is a wholly positive aspect of our information ecosystem right now, thanks to the internet, is the speed at which stuff goes. But an unfortunate side effect is that you do have overworked bloggers who just need to push stuff out.
I mean, with the understanding that there are surely right now 18-year-olds that are being ripped off the streets of Brooklyn and chained in cubicles at Gawker headquarters, where and only when they hit their page view count will they be given a sandwich to continue their work.
The ironic thing, though, is that if you do a well-researched story, a better research story that has its own definitive point of view and a voice to it and a sense of authority to it, that actually gets more page views than your initial quick hit.
And brand names in terms of these blogs matter. And I think that a Mashable has a defined brand that has come from a certain kind of reporting. Gawker, as much as we make fun of them, have a very defined brand from what they've done. Vice the same way. And I think that you've seen those, or even BuzzFeed for as superfluous as so much of their content can be, has distinguished themselves specifically when it comes to politics and stuff like that by hiring good people and doing good work, based on that has kind of done more to fill out why people are paying attention to them than just the idea that something gets there quicker. Because now, if you're a blog, you're driving the slower car on the information superhighway compared to Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that now.
Right, and you can get torn apart by Twitter and Facebook, so it's extra important to have your facts straight. Yeah, I see what the temptation is, but also the good news that I can bring back from the front lines is it does actually make more financial sense to write a better story, because you do get more page views in the long run, and it makes more financial sense to get a better headline rather than a clickbait headline, because you want your readers to be happy when they click on the story and not feel cheated. I mean, I sort of I keep talking about this term hate click, which is I think what people do a lot. They click on a story because they were clickbaited by the headline. They're like, oh, that wasn't worth it, and then they're gonna whatever site that did that Upworthy. Is probably not something they're going to, and you do see those sites that their audience tends to drop off after a while.
Well, and it's funny because you see many of those sites that have enjoyed the wave of success that comes with, the initial wave of clickbait headlines. I'm thinking of BuzzFeed myself. I can't, you probably... never mind. I think of BuzzFeed, and I see them trying very hard to legitimize themselves as a news source, but I don't know that they're ever going to cross that chasm in my mind. They're never going to be, a Wall Street Journal or a Mashable or a Vice.com or any of that stuff.
Well, yeah, you got to get the balance right, and I think BuzzFeed does great reporting, but they also do, so many quizzes and so many GIF related posts that it's not quite the right balance yet. I'm sure it will get there.
I saw I've been doing a lot of research in the book space and seeing what's going on with some of the different people who popularize books and stuff. And it was interesting is BookBub, which has actually I was a BookBub featured book yesterday, and book just shot up, of course, because of that. I want to know what their Twitter feed was like. I'm like, what is this like? This is the #1 book recommendation list. What does their Twitter feed look like? And it's all like this BuzzFeed meme crap stuff of just GIFs and stuff. And I said, man, is this what's happening, where we look at what the #1 most trafficked things and it's all becoming listicles and stuff? And now we're going through the feed right here, and it's just this. It's not, hey, here's the top pick of the day book-wise or whatever. It's, 8 series that are, as hot as 50 Shades of Grey, and then, what your reaction is when you finish your favorite book series and it's Barney from How I Met Your Mother, and it's just all of this listicle crap.
Yeah, and I mean that stuff is good, but you got to balance it out. You can't have a meal that is all dessert.
Well, and the
I've
good
tried.
news. The good news, I think you have the right point, Chris, which is the fundamentals have shifted so that even if you are a pragmatic player purely on the game theory now says you're better off investing in more insight and better research to build your brand as a trustworthy source, because we see the backlash against that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So, Chris, we're not going to do picks because we all have the same pick. It's called How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. We might have extra picks, but our main pick is seriously your book. It's about 30 hours on audio, and I probably lost 5 or 6 pounds just walking around at night, staying out longer to walk extra laps just so I could listen to the next chapter or whatever. I may be prone to hyperbole, but there is no amount of hyperbole that can articulate how much I really enjoyed that book. And any hint on what you're doing next?
Thank you. That's awesome to hear. I've actually heard that people like the audiobook so much they've told me they've driven around in circles around Lake Tahoe. That's one I get occasionally. Next, it's not locked in yet, but I think I spoke to this the last time I was on, that I wanted to do a book about Utopia versus dystopia.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that is a much more, that is a proposal now. It is a much firmer stage than it was, but it's basically the same idea that, trying to discover what is it about us that we love dystopian fiction in all its forms. We love post-apocalyptic, zombie-based or Hunger Games style fiction. It just seems to have taken over the world in the last few years. And what is it about Utopia that we hate, that we can't seem to latch onto? And what would it take to write a modern Utopia? And part of the book attempts to do exactly that, to construct a feasible modern utopian narrative that would work for the millennial generation. So stay tuned.
Man, I just want to fish for insights on this, because this is something that fascinates me. It seems like in so many ways, as a fringy political person, it seems like so much of Utopia is built around the idea of central planning, everything with a consistent look and aesthetic feel, clearly designed by architects. And then what's often represented as dystopia, for example, Blade Runner universe, or Snow Crash, Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash is clearly written to horrify the reader as to the broken dystopian nature of it, and yet I love it. I adore it. It's a place where everything they franchise citizenship in different fast food establishments, and you pay in various currencies. Everything's decentralized. Do you notice any trends, or is that all? Do I have to wait for the book to hear about this?
No, that is exactly right. That's one of the biggest problems is that dystopias have all the fun.
Yes, I mean the internet.
To your point, though, the biggest dystopian franchise is Hunger Games, and that is all central planning gone awry, right? That it is a central government that has taken us to this horrifying place.
I wonder if
it's a central government that knows to have bread and circuses, right? That's the whole point of the Hunger Games themselves, is to keep the populace both terrified and entertained.
I wonder. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, in your book, getting back to theirs, you talked about exploring the question of, did Star Wars inspire like Star Trek did, and I would come from the point of view that the people that were inspired by Star Trek, who liked that, were the ones that went to work for NASA. The ones who were inspired by Star Wars were the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezos was a big Star Trek fan, but we're often the ones that wanted to go create their own Millennium Falcon, go out there and create their own world, because they didn't want the universe with rules. They wanted the ones without one, because that was where the fun was to be had.
Yeah, and it's definitely a problem if you try to create a utopia on screen. I don't know if you guys have seen Chaos on the Bridge,
Yes,
William Shatner's documentary about Gene Roddenberry coming back to Star Trek and creating the Next Generation, and the infighting on that. It's now on Netflix. It's an hour-long documentary. I recommend that everyone watch it, because that was the essential piece of the conflict, was that Gene thought that in the 24th century there would be no interpersonal conflict because we've resolved, there's no need to fight about anything because we've solved world hunger, we've solved energy problems, and we can all just be big happy families on spaceships. Well, and that is the problem. That's why people don't trust utopian visions these days.
Yeah.
Because
And
that just doesn't feel right.
Star
Families have
Trek
conflicts.
Federation's a fascist enterprise anyway, so it's
and it's evident in Star Wars as well. I may have talked about this before, but the more popular Star Wars movies revolve around a dystopian empire rather than a utopian galactic republic.
All right, so let's just say theoretically blue sky in it. Of course, this utopian dystopian book lights everything up, and Star Wars again projecting. Who knows? Turns out to be very popular and is huge and gigantic. And there is now a desire from your publisher for you to do a sequel or a story on where Star Wars has gone. What would you find to be the most fascinating story about Star Wars, the current fandom or the machine that is putting this stuff out that you would like to dig in on?
What I've been fascinated throughout the book, and by the way, the intent with this book was never to have a sequel. It was always going to be the one-volume history of Star Wars, and I may add chapters to it. In the paperback version has a whole extra chapter on the creation of The Force Awakens. So, I hope that I can keep that going, and that, next year we'll have an extra chapter on Rogue One. And, I would love it if you bought it now and then, on Kindle, and then you could get the extra chapter when it gets delivered. But we'll have to see about that. But in any case, what has always fascinated me, and this is evident throughout the book, is this notion of the idea of Star Wars being something that was spawned from George Lucas's brain, but really now exists by itself and has sort of transmitted itself to other brains. And that the story of the prequels was the story of us telling George Lucas, no, that's not Star Wars. That's not what we had in mind. And he was like, no, this is what I had in mind. Goofy monsters, more spaceships, more models, more big budget, fill the screen with all the things. And we're like, no, that's not what we saw. Sorry, thank you. And J.J. Abrams comes along and says, yes, I agree with you. Star Wars is more of a Western. Now he's imposing the audience's vision on Star Wars, which is fascinating. That this thing has a life of its own. You can almost feel it as this meme that leaves George Lucas's head, enters J.J. Abrams, enters the billions of people around the world. What happens to that next? I mean, now that idea. Now it's a $4 billion idea owned by Disney, right? And they're probably going to make their money back just on the merchandising from the first film alone. But what happens to that next? How long can that idea live? I raised the question in the book: are we still going to be seeing Star Wars movies in 100 years? And I think because the general idea of Star Wars is so strong, and because it is in better hands now than its creator. I think that it possibly can, and I'm fascinated to see how long it will go.
I think that part of the reason why that is that the reason Star Wars worked is it took a lot of very familiar ideas, a lot of good ideas in science fiction, and figured out how to make them work on the screen. And you can't do, why did Disney buy Star Wars? Is because they wanted it, if they could have created their own space, galaxy spanning adventure. It's hard to not run up against Star Wars. And even within the Marvel universe, Guardians of the Galaxy, part of the reasons we loved it is it was very Star Wars-like. And, and it ultimately you can keep saying, well, and it's where Harry Potter is now. If you want to do something in the world of magic and contemporary and have witches and wizards and stuff, guess what? You're always going to be compared to Harry Potter. It's going to be hard to get away with it. You can say we're doing more grown-up versions and stuff like with the magicians or whatever, but it's either Harry Potter or it's Harry Potter Light. And Harry Potter took a bunch of neat ideas and stuff that was out there, and J.K. Rowling did a wonderful way of packaging it and making it all work and cohesive and a bit more palatable than, let's say, the wonderful Discworld series is and all that. And you can find elements of that elsewhere, and I think I think there's a lot riding on Rogue One, kind of like in the Marvel universe was, if you could do Iron Man, if you could make Thor work with gods and stuff like that, and then go all the way out there at Guardians of the Galaxy, you've got a franchise. And if we're into this space commando mission with Rogue One, and how weird is it that, like, how many people are more excited about that, by the way, than Force Awakens? And it's a prequel.
Yep. And it's basically Saving Private Ryan meets Star Wars, which is a fascinating way to do it, and I think proves the fact that this idea is so mutable. You can take it in so many different directions, and have it still essentially be Star Wars. That I think that you're right. Rogue One is going to prove that. I think we're going to see more along those lines. I think we may see more experimentation in the spin-off movies. Perhaps make one more of a rom-com, set in the Star Wars universe. Who knows? That
I
could
totally
work too.
see that, man.
It's a big galaxy.
Okay, so I know we're starting to run long here, so there's one important burning question on everyone's mind. This December, will Star Wars make more money than any other movie within the first 30 days of its release? And it's very important for a very specific reason. That's at draft.nightattack.tv.
I believe it will.
I'm sorry, draft.diamondclub.tv. So specifically, like, I guess the biggest one right now is it still Avatar right now, released around the same time, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, 2.7 billion, I believe.
Yeah, that's the worldwide. Domestic was what, 750 million. If you were going to put a number on the domestic for this, by the end of, we'll say, January, what would your guess be?
Bookie right now.
And by the way, one of the big stories this week was that tracking first started to hit for what people are expecting Star Wars to make based on its awareness in all 4 quadrants, which, as you might imagine, is gigantic. And the tracking ranges from the heartbreaking disappointment of only being the biggest December movie of all time at the low 200s to the insanity. Like, people would sacrifice the leading star of movies at an altar if it was guaranteed for the entire run to just be what is projected to be the optimistic Star Wars opening of 300 million. Where do you think this ends up landing with the opening weekend and then going on for the domestic gross?
I'm gonna put it out there and guess 250 for opening weekend, and total domestic. I think it could even hit 1 billion. I think there's that much interest, there's that much repeatability in this. If J.J. Abrams has got it right, I mean, here's a kid who saw the original Star Wars over and over again in the Avco Theater in Hollywood, so he knows that is, part of what is essential to this is you need to be able to go back and see it 4 or 5 times. There needs to be nothing in it that prevents that. It needs to be, the eye candy needs to be good enough. I think that we've seen that in the trailers. It obviously is. The trailers are just somewhere you want to climb inside those trailers and live there, right?
Man,
it just looks so gorgeous.
In the current age, in the old days, there was no way to relive your favorite moments of Star Wars. You had to go back and buy a ticket and sit through the whole thing again just for that one moment of the Death Star blowing up. But it occurs to me that,
spoilers, Brian.
Yeah, sorry. But I totally would not put it past J.J. Abrams to realize that in the 21st century, the only way you get people to go watch the movie again is if you do something like set up a secret narrative that only takes place in the background of shots every 5 minutes, so that 3 weeks after it comes out, this leaks out, and we're like, wait, there's a whole nother story in there that I missed. And you go back and you watch, and then you have this weird moment where the audience, one half of the audience is reacting to the A plot, the other is reacting and watching to this B story that was secretly grafted into it. That would be amazing.
We've already seen, I mean, they are sneaking so many Easter eggs into this thing. We've already seen, the little Mandalorian flag, the Boba Fett's people. There's a prayer flag in one scene where Han and Finn are going into this temple-like place. And you see that little Mandalorian flag up there. People pick that apart. They love that sort of stuff. The fact that 3PO has a different colored arm, and there's a whole backstory there. So it really seems like they're getting into exactly that concept that you're talking about, which is part of what brought people back for Star Wars. Like, what is the Clone Wars that he's talking about? You know, what did happen to Obi-Wan?
The repeatability comes down to also as like scene length. If you break down the most repeatable, rewatchable films that tend to come from, like, say, Lucas and Spielberg, you take Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you realize how there were these action sequence payoffs every 20 minutes, you know, and how you had, you know, going from there's almost a rhythm from, like, there's a twofold conflict to a threefold conflict to a fourfold conflict. There are a lot of these sort of almost mathematics that would apply to it. But, you know, overall, it's having those great character moments and filling the screen with very interesting people. And I remember being this far out from Phantom Menace going, well, you know, it's Liam Neeson. You know, he's always done good stuff. You know?
They had no backstory with the Phantom Menace. It's like, you know, all they had was trade disputes. Right? Who cares about the backstory of trade disputes? But already with The Force Awakens, you've got, like, what the hell has happened to the Empire and the Rebellion? Now they're the First Order and the Resistance. So obviously a lot of shit has gone down in the last 30 years. You know, and you're going to want to pick it apart for that.
Meanwhile, behind the scenes, you have J.J. Abrams, which, I mean, I'm just personally taking as if he's just talking to me personally when he says things like, yeah, you know, the Super 8 script wasn't ready, and we kind of screwed that up, and you know, we kind of screwed up Star Trek Into Darkness because we made too many winks and nods to Wrath of Khan, where it's like, I think Andrew and I have talked at length about, you know, kind of like, okay, so let's prepare ourselves. Let's build our armor for, you know, like where it might not be the movie that we want it to be. And ultimately, is it too referential? Is it too obsessed with winks and nods to the fact that this is a Star Wars movie and it gets in its own way there? Or if it is just a series of setups that don't give us a satisfying conclusion to hook us into a series of 3 big movies, and instead we just get a Prometheus where it's like a bunch of lukewarm, you know, half interesting questions that we're just gonna trust you guys will reveal interesting answers for in the next movie, even though you certainly didn't do it here.
And if it was just J.J. Abrams involved in the writing, I think I would agree that that's a danger, that he has certain excesses that he repeats. And, you know, he has a tendency to pick stuff up and then sort of leave it lying all over the place. But the fact that Karsdan is there, you know, that he has the track record that he has, and he, you know, that guy just lives and breathes, you know, good script. I mean, you know, this is Raiders of the Lost Ark
getting pulled into it.
Sorry, what was that, Andrew?
So I guess his son is like his writing partner now, or I guess that he's going to, I guess, take over on the next one or something there.
I think they're writing the Han Solo spin-off together. That was the idea, and then Karsdan's going to bow out at that stage.
Yeah. No, I believe Rian Johnson is writing or has written episode 8.
8,
right?
yeah.
Right. I believe so. And you know, and then after that we get the Han Solo spin-off, still unnamed. And then Karsdan bows out at that stage.
Solo.
They should just call it Han Solo Shot First, and then everyone will go see it.
It's funny, like I've seen George Lucas wearing that shirt too.
Yep. Yeah, and I've also seen fans point out that you know, they're trying to appropriate the controversy by making it a Han shot first controversy rather than, you know, the whole point being that Han shot by himself. You know, Greedo didn't shoot at all, so we shouldn't call it that. You know, but yeah, fans get bent out of shape over a lot.
Again, the book is How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. Chris, thank you again for taking time to chat with us about this. I think what's going to happen right now is we will all just text you our phone numbers, and I want a 1 emoji review after you see it on the 14th because you're going to be there at the premiere. I just want just 1 emoji.
Well, I mean, actually, just really as a courtesy to all of the people around you in the theater, it occurs to me that, you know, there might be an incoming call that would unfortunately make your phone vibrate. To prevent that, you could be on the line with someone and just set your phone down with the screen off. Then if anyone were to call you, it wouldn't disturb your neighbors. So if you wanted to call me or Justin or Andrew and just set that phone down, it's fine by us.
Yeah, you know, Justin has a Google Glass, which hardly used.
I think I might be ripped bodily from the audience.
Tell them you're Lobot. You're a Lobot.
Yeah, no, that'd be the surest fire way that you could get first person perspective footage of J.J. Abrams scissor kicking you in the head to shatter your Google Glass.
I have to wear it. It's a disability. I gotta.
Chris, have you had a chance to go to Disneyland and see any of the Season of the Force stuff?
Not yet. No, have you?
Yes. Yeah, I was brought to tears. Basically, they do it. They have a 22-minute. I think it's called Path of the Jedi or the Journey of the Jedi, and it's this a montage of all these early clips, and then it ends with the Force Awakens trailer, and the amount of emotion and the amount of stuff that goes into that is just I feel very, very good, and I'm trying to temper my expectations. I just want a good movie. I just want to go in there. And it doesn't even have to be the best movie of the year. It just has to be a solid movie. And given the fact that, I saw the Captain America Civil War trailer, best movie of the year is going to be kind of hard for Star Wars to take. But
yeah, low expectations is good. We learned that from Phantom Menace, so definitely going with that. But in deference to you guys, I'm going to tweet out a one emoji review after I see the film.
Good.
And, I'm almost certain it will not be the poop emoji.
Oh, God. Right on.
We'll be like, but maybe that's an alien. Maybe it's a good alien. It's a smiling alien, guys. We'll do it at the same stages of denial of Phantom Menace.
Listen, man, you're just gonna see the world, Twitter tear itself apart as you tweet out the enigmatic two girls ballet dancing together emoji, and
this is how I feel inside right now. I haven't seen this film.
Thank you so much for coming on, Chris. The book is fantastic. Everybody needs to go pick it up if you haven't read it already. And we are all we're resisting physical violence with how jealous we are that you get to see this movie 3 days before we do.
I forgive you because there are a few books that you read that you feel that they're a gift in a sense, that the amount of time and effort the writer put into it and how they could have delivered something that was half as much and you'd still like it, but how much you put into how Star Wars conquered the universe. I am seriously in awe of that book. I love that book, and I really do. I pitch that book to everybody as far as what they should read on the subject, and just in general, not even about Star Wars, but just understanding how how to cover a topic as expansive as that is. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Andrew. My ears are burning right now. You can't even see, but
Yeah.
Good.
I appreciate it.
The headphones, you should probably clean them. But. Gentlemen, it's been awesome with Chris Taylor.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you on the other side.
Yep. We do our After Things podcast. You're welcome to stick around. It's more to creative professional or people just who are in creative and writing or whatever. You're not obligated to stick around, but if you want to, we'd welcome it. And but we do a pee break at this point.
Thank you. Yeah, I got to go help my wife in the garage, unfortunately. But
yeah, I'm sorry. You saw me duck out a couple of times. There was a poop covered 2-year-old that I need to attend to. I put the 8-year-old in charge. Like Josie was like, I don't know where mom is. This kid crapped her pants, and I'm like, give her a bath. I'm out. So let me check on that, and I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Guys. I'm going to sign off.
Awesome.
But Justin, I'm really looking forward to The Contender.
My God! Thank you.
I cannot wait to see it in person. It's I'm sure it's going to be one of my favorite games of next year.
Oh my God! Well, thank you so much, man. Yeah, we're really, really excited because Monday they are all in boxes at our printer, and they are moving out on Monday to the fulfillment centers, and then from the fulfillment centers we'll be able to fulfill all the pre-orders and everything that we've gotten, so far. But yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, if I can bring a couple decks to the Mashable offices, I would love to help you guys out there because.
Awesome. Yeah. I think they would love to play. We're big Cards Against Humanity players there, and I know a couple of people who would really dig kind of a political version.
Oh my God! All right, definitely, yeah. Then we'll be in touch as soon as you get back from your travels. We'll definitely have some on hand, and we can figure something out.
Sounds good. All right, I'll see you then.
Thank you so much, man.
All right, bye.
Bye, Chris.
Yeah, Bryce, just go ahead and play the Captain America Civil War trailer mashed up with Adele, and I'm sure by the time that that's done. everybody won't be able to be back from their pee
Wait,
break because I definitely got to run
oh
here
my-
too.
Okay. Wait, are you not going to be here for after things?
No.
Oh.
I just got to leave right now. Like just so there's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, here. Yeah, let's take a look at this and hope we don't get taken down.
I'm right here.
Buck, do you remember me? Your mom's name is Sarah. You used to wear newspapers in your shoes.
Hello, it's me. I was wondering if after all these years you'd like me to go over everything. They say the time's supposed to heal you, but I ain't done much healing. Hello.
It's a clever mashup.
It's a brilliant mashup because it works.
What is the song?
Adele song.
I see.
And free. I forgot
It's funny because they went back in and had to add in sound effects.
Sorry, Tony. You know I wouldn't do this if I had any other choice. But he's my friend. So was I. Hurts.
So in this mashup, is Captain America Adele or is or is Iron Man?
Our hearts are Adele, Bryce. I think we're caught in between. These two. It's touching.
I love the fact that Bryce, that you're sitting here going, okay, I see there's a narrative, and I see that I have two other potential people I could apply this to, but I need to know which one for this to work with me. Where I'm just like, it's going to be the best romance movie of all time.
Yeah, no, I'm down, dude.
I never read the comic books, but I know certainly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Tony Stark has had the government try to appropriate his stuff. He's had members of the government literally steal his suit and build their own stuff on their own. Now, keep in mind that Tony Stark of the comic books was so enraged at patent theft, at IP theft, that he went to war against anyone with a suit of armor and literally ripped it out of their defeated bodies. It just seems odd that he is he's the Dennis Miller like I've seen the light and now I'm a neocon character in this Civil War.
I totally didn't read it like
plays.
that, and I think that that's kind of why it's really, really smart for them to make this about Bucky and make this about Captain America siding with Bucky, a fugitive who has murdered people, because I think that's where you can bring in, because I think you're right, Brian. Like, there's a lot of like, why is Tony Stark just caping up for the government now? But if it's like, hey, one of your dudes has gone rogue and is now harboring a terrorist who, you can lay out all the proof on the table and say, hey, look, this guy needs to be brought to justice, then it's like I could see it being a sense of personal responsibility that who else is going to stop Captain America? Like, it's got to be Iron Man. It's got to be somebody who knows who he is, and that's a benefit of making it
Brian,
about
the thing is,
that.
remember that the evolution that we got is that after the whole Ultron, which many of us are trying to forget, is him trying to deal with the fact that he can't control the loss of, how can he protect everybody? The events of New York, how can he protect everybody, and what happens when our powers aren't checked? And it's not like he in the comics he becomes their lackey, he kind of gets to be the man running S.H.I.E.L.D. and calling the shots and stuff.
Well, but the overall idea of Civil War, as it was told to me, and forgive me if I got it wrong, is that it's largely about the registration of everyone. You have to give up your real name, your real identity, and all that stuff. Right?
Yeah, and that's I think Kevin Feige has said that that's not the central element of the MCU Civil War. That you have the world kind of coming together after Age of Ultron and saying like, all right, let's get a handle on this, like, you know, gigantic cities being used as meteors to destroy the world kind of thing. And if Tony Stark has admitted that it was his creation of Ultron that did this, then there's this like, all right, let's have some kind of understanding of what you people are doing, right? And then Captain America basically just says, "What do you mean, you people?" And you know, goes off on his own thing.
Did wow, I have no memory of this. Was there any justification given for the transition of Iron Man 3, him blowing up all his suits of armor to say he's done and he's getting his heart fixed, and then all of a sudden he's just back as Iron Man in Ultron? Did they resolve that at all?
That's not the way. The 3 wasn't about him giving up Iron Man. It was about him giving up his obsession of trying to keep making all these different suits of armor to avoid what was really bothering him.
What was the point of blowing up the Iron Mans if not to say?
Because he was at night, he kept building them and he was obsessed about them, and, you know, to the point that they're, you know, threatening Pepper Potts and stuff like that, because he would not, instead of dealing with the problem, he was just building more suits of armor to protect himself.
Okay.
It's a metaphor for racism.
It always is.
But yeah, dude, I'm God, I'm so excited. And for anybody, let's just get this out here on Front Street. Civil War, the comic event, was a cluster F. Like, it is a barely coherent a story that is effectively just thin window dressing for, like, I wonder what would happen if Thor hit Captain America's shield, like, you know, and all that kind of hero fight hero stuff. Like, it's very, 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 very convoluted in a way that the MCU isn't, and it is why the MCU succeeds. Is, you know, for anybody who's like, well, how do they bring in Norman Osborn to become the president, because he's the one that does the Zero Registration Act, and like, it's just a mess. I'm very, very happy if they streamline this story and make it more about the characters and less about, you know, every little detail of Civil War, you know, being brought to the screen.
And Brian, to your point, Iron Man 3 ended with a very interesting conundrum for Stark that you kind of could interpret the way that I did. And I would say that, yes, the second Avengers movie maybe was more involved in its own narrative than continuing on what I think Shane Black masterfully put in place in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, the rumor I heard was that Shane Black got a phone call basically saying not enough toys. And that's why the house party protocol was written into the script at the end. I'm serious. That's what I'm told. No. Yeah. At any rate. Dude, how great is Chris Taylor, man?
He's awesome.
Smart.
I'm going to get one of those, by the way.
What was that?
I'm going to get one of those British accents.
Oh.
It's a good move.
Ordered one. There's an app. So
2-day delivery.
By the way, you guys had left, but I swear to God it happened. You know, I swear.
Oh, I heard him. He told you how excited he was about the contender.
Smart guy.
It's good.
I didn't hear it. Didn't hear it.
Swear it happened. My girlfriend in Canada will tell you in an email. Can't talk to her phone.
Snuffleupagus showed up and was just like, well, what about the contender, Chris?
Are you going to get the button pack?
Oh, yeah, by the way, button pack's available now.
All right, I'm good to go on this side whenever you guys are. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to After Things, the podcast where we talk about issues relating to creative people, whether you're a podcaster, writer, musician, interpretive dance, you name it. We're going to try to cover a topic that might relate to you. I'm Andrew Main, joined, of course, by Brian Brushwood.
Yo!
Justin Robert Young.
Hi.
Gentlemen,
Yeah,
here we are.
we are.
I have a question for you. Now, we're all involved in several different spheres as far as what we create. I do a little bit of podcasting. You guys do a lot. Justin does a lot of podcasting. Brian does a lot of YouTubing. Brian also is very involved with scam stuff, and this is a big part of the year for him. So he spends a lot of his time creating products, planning campaigns, doing that stuff. Justin's in the middle of the Contender launch and where's going on with that. I want to find out what some of your favorite tools are, things that you've come to use that make your jobs a lot easier, that you wish you knew about, sooner than you do now. I mean, what are...
Man, I'll jump right in on this.
Please
for
do.
sure. As far as the books side of things, I was very, very glad that I encountered what was originally called Vook, now known as Pronoun. But I think the landscape has changed so much since I wrote those books that I don't even know that that's relevant. It sounds like the new hotness, if you're going to write a book with interactive aspects, is to use the iBooks engine, or what would you recommend, Andrew?
So you're talking about for doing interactivity. So I don't do the degree of interactivity you do. For layout, I used Vellum, and I very, very much heart Vellum. Vellum I like a lot because Vellum allows you to create your book in a nice layout design. It was created by a couple of former Pixar software programmers. And the way it works is it's a Mac-only thing, so that's a limitation, obviously, for a lot of people. But you load your file in there, your Word file, whatever, and sometimes if you format it right, it automatically formats. It's beautifully laid out. I'm using it for all my new books. And then to do one book, you pay $30. To do 10 books, you pay $100. To do unlimited, it's $200. If you want to create a really nice-looking book, it is well worth it. I was just 2 days ago, I was in a conversation with somebody who manages a really an independent publishing company, but they represent some of the biggest names in fantasy and sci-fi. And I was showing him Vellum, and he was flipping out because they've got to put out dozens and dozens of titles a year, and the functions in that app are great.
And you're talking about like specifically stuff like typography and layout and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But
which is very often, and we've talked about this on the show before, like those are the things that scream, this is the same thing that your kid is going to write an essay like in that format, and not like this is a book that you would pick up from Barnes and Noble,
or at the airport or whatever. Yeah, I'll tell you what though, my life changed, or it began a vector of change in October of 2012 when John and I think I was going through like my third or fourth year. It was as we were transitioning to more online stuff. I wasn't touring as much. The last time I had done a major theater run was at Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando, Florida in 2010. So it had been a while, and we had kind of slipped behind, and I had been, I don't know, I kind of had this rolling credit card debt, in a bid to be like, let's just wipe this thing out. Let's just write the third book. Both of the first two books premiered to about $10,000 of sales. Then we can get out of credit card debt and we can move forward. And so Bonnie, in an effort to, support us, said, I'm going to take the kids to go see the grandparents. We're going to get the hell out of here. And instead what happened was we cooked up the idea, what if we had an online store? People seem to really dig buying the books. I almost get the impression that people could buy more stuff than we actually have for sale. So in October of 2012, we used a site called Shopify to launch scamstuff.com. And it ended up being a life-changing decision because once we got it, first of all, Shopify essentially turns everything into a video game. It keeps account of how many things that you've sold. It's got graphs and metrics to let you know what trends are happening. And as we go into our third holiday season, it is amazing to be able to, as a matter of fact, there was this amazing moment a month ago where I looked at the last 3 years of data. And there's kind of a wave that goes up going into holiday season. And then, as businesses do, second year is bigger. And then the third year, everything's been bigger going up. And then it's amazing to see this cliff where that, well, if I was going to place a bet, it would be that they're going to be bigger. And I realized I don't physically have enough inventory to cover. There's not enough stuff in the warehouse to cover how big this graph is going to be. So we ended up having to, drop everything and throw a bunch of resources into making sure there's enough Rogues Taverns and Arcana boxes going into the holiday season. And obviously we're still in the middle of it, so I can't really predict how it is. But that ability to look at the gamified version of commerce, when you're just moving widgets from one thing to another. I can't speak enough about Shopify. ShipStation has been another invaluable tool, and I'll say, as far as like finance things, whether it's on an individual basis or on a business basis, Mint.com is a life changer. If you're not on Mint, you better be on something better than Mint, and you better be able to explain to me why what you have is better than Mint.
Personally, Brian's number is out there.
Yeah, no, 866 eat fire. Call me right now. But no, Mint is life changing.
I echo second on all those. When we launched the Contender website, the only way to go was Shopify. I've been very impressed with what we've been able to do. Especially in customizing. Listen, the Contender is a brand that is in large part based on writing and concept, and so the fact that Shopify makes it so simple for us to have all of our auto-generated email correspondence with people, whether or not they're buying, whether they're getting refunded, whether or not, like every element, every possible thing. I went in and wrote little personal funny things. So when people come in and they buy something, that they get a little bit of the Contender spirit from the people who wrote the game.
In fact, along those lines, two quick things. Number one, I don't think I mentioned MailChimp is absolutely vital to reaching out to your fan base. MailChimp. And then also, one of the things I love about Shopify is when you're logged in, there's a little tab that says apps, and there's this entire marketplace. Like the bare bones Shopify is super, super affordable, but there's all these people who have figured out that they can build apps. Some of them are free, some of them cost money. For example, there's one that used to be called Lexity. Now it's owned by Yahoo, but it allows you to log in and see exactly right at this minute how many people are in your store, how many people are browsing, how many people are thinking, how many people are in the active of checking out or whatever. And there's also widgets that do things like allow you to write clever emails for when people abandon their boxes. They go their checkout carts. They put stuff in, they get as far as putting their email in, and then they get distracted before they hit the trigger or whatever. And I love your point, Justin, because that's exactly what we've done with our abandoned checkout things. Do you happen to have, Justin, any of the examples of the writing that you did?
I can look it up.
Because I think that's an important aspect, is figuring out how to virtualize your character in these things. Just as all of Scam School is a virtualized version of hanging out with Brian Brushwood at the bar and getting the chance to to see some magic and so on. I'm gonna
double down. By the way, I thought that Shopify. I used that on your recommendation, and I found that there's great plugins there for letting you do an e-commerce and storing stuff like on your Amazon S3 cloud, and it's pricey. It's pricey. If you want to just do digital goods, there's payloads and there's cells, but if you're going to do physical and you want to keep track of a lot of stuff, but they make up for it with a lot of features though. So it's not like it is the kind of metrics that Brian talks about are great, and that was one of the delights for me, was finding out all of that other data in there, and so. If you're going to take that seriously, I think that is a because I was thinking about, here's the thing I love about Shopify. Back in the day, Justin and I used to, when we were running our little magic site and selling stuff like that, I would get every couple days, hey, I didn't get my download, this thing didn't work or whatever. I was getting those periodically, and it was a routine thing to happen. I forget I have Shopify because I never have those problems.
Exactly.
The only thing I ever get is hey, I got a new computer. My old one got stolen by raccoons or whatever. Can you send me a brand new download link or something to that effect? But that's just it works so seamlessly. I know this sounds like an infomercial right now, people, but it's not. In the subject you mentioned MailChimp. I used to hate MailChimp because I thought their interface and email designer was just so kludgy, so problematic. The new version of that, I love. It is so much easier to design emails and so much easier to go back and repurpose and fix them. I use MailChimp every day for the weird list, which if you're not on the weird things list, you can get that whenever I send stuff out because I use an auto response. They have evolved into a great tool. Sometimes you get with a company and you watch their product just stagnate and it doesn't improve, and they try to, they may add features but not fix the things they need to, versus I think Shopify and MailChimp, I think, have just, in my opinion, have become
Absolutely. MailChimp also has fantastic metrics and they have advice. They're like, hey, here's what works. Here's what you should consider doing. Here's how you did this email versus the last email. Here's the average for that list. Also, once you subscribe and start paying, unlimited emails. It's based on how big a list you want to maintain is. Whether you're emailing them daily, 3 times a day, once a week, it doesn't matter.
So here I pulled up my our email things here. So this is if you order the Contender right now, for which I recommend you do. Please, kids, play along at home by going to thecontender.us and buying. Prove me wrong that this isn't exactly the email you get when your order is confirmed. It reads, a majestic eagle spreads its wings as it lands on a small town's withered ballot box. What's that in its beak? Yes, a signed poster from Grover Cleveland himself reading the name of the person who bought the game. Hey, you're great. Great job.
That's awesome. What's funny is that's very much the spirit of our abandoned checkout email. If you log out, you get an email that later says, hey, person's name who abandoned their cart. Brian Brushwood here, along with the whole gang at Scam Stuff. So we were all gathered around our computer watching your order come together, but then, plot twist, we saw that you didn't finish checking out. There was kind of a moment of silence, and then John was all like, dude, do you think this person was attacked by grizzly bears or something? That totally made sense to us, so we leaped directly into action. We formed a task force, started calling all the ranger stations in your state. Good news, turns out you weren't in any of them. Brant thinks you may currently be battling pirate ninja robots. Bryce is still convinced you were abducted by aliens, in which case it'll be a while before you read this. Me? It's obvious to me that you developed the power of flight and are just taking a few days to celebrate. Whichever it is, I'm sure it's very exciting and taking up all your time. But here's the important thing. You should know that your order is still waiting at checkout. Take all the time you need. We're currently holding a candlelight vigil, and we'll be holding hands thinking of you until then. Click here to complete your order.
So I'm gonna dissect that, and I want to tell folks the single most important part of what you sent, Brian,
is
and according to me, can you guess what it would be according to me? What the single most important part about that is?
It was creative and interesting.
We'll forget about that.
It used the autofill thing to put their name in.
No, I hate that. That annoys me when people do that, actually. But
I don't know. What is it?
I know who I'm dealing with. I got names. You guys. The personalities there. You're not, welcome to Scam Stuff Intergalactic and, customer service. Tony here is answering. I hate that. And I deal with people sometimes, like, I'll get stuff and I know they're sending me their fake, like, oh, my assistant will get back to you. Like, oh, your girlfriend? That's great. You know, and get this fake stuff, or people who pretend. There might be some circles, like if we're trying to sell some service to, some big, huge company and we need to sort of put on a little bit of airs, that's fine. But when I'm dealing person to person, be a person. And that was a thing from people. That was a thing from real people who are like, hey, we're the guys that are selling you this thing. And
well,
that
and
matters
that
so
is,
much.
I think that's something that the Contender's doing very well, and I'm glad that you think it's something that we're doing
Grover
well.
Cleveland, right? Yeah.
No, but when you
but that Justin's is a thing from the Contender. That's what works about that is that it's like I said, that's the game. That's who I talk to.
Well, and it's honest. When you don't have the power of a giant corporation or of a mega brand behind you, I would say. I know for us the decision was don't try to fake it. You'll notice that all of our packaging is hand stamped because what we don't have giant abilities to do one-offs of full color glossy whatevers. We can buy a lot of attractive craft paper and cardboard boxes from Uline, and we can get stamps made for $50 a piece at a local stamp joint, and we do have the time to hand stamp all of that. And what we lack in the polish that a bigger company comes up with we hopefully come across with the handcraftedness, and that goes all the way to the way we present ourselves in the character of the online store.
And that's a great point. And to think about this too is large companies spend millions of dollars trying to figure out how to manufacture that personal touch. There's a reason why, Kentucky Fried Chicken still, wanted to have the Colonel, went away from the Colonel, and tried to go back to the Colonel. Why Virgin Brands and Richard Branson, and that when you can have a person or somebody associate with it, it can be invaluable. It's why Subway is okay. We'll put that aside. The point is that your most important asset is the fact that you are a real person, and if you can be a real person, interact with that. I'm on Twitter, interact with people. I'm trying to be my nice, cordial self with that. And people email me like, hey, where's this order? Like, yeah, I'll handle it. Sometimes I'll have a friend does that sort of stuff for me or whatever, but often it's me, and I don't hide behind that. I did a thing with my books, is that I didn't put a publisher on my new books that I've been self-releasing because I thought, you know what? I released it. I put it out there. AndrewMain.com is my company. It's an LLC. I'll just do it as that instead of trying to pretend, oh yeah, this is I'm published by a real quote real publisher, but I'm more proud of the stuff that I do on my own, and so I don't go out of my effort I try to make it look as polished and professional as I can. But other than that, I'm not trying to put on no airs.
And we live in an age of the internet honesty era. Speaking of which, Justin, do you have another example of the writing, or because I'm sure you you sat down and wrote a million of those.
Yeah, wait, I just closed it.
Damn it, Justin!
Did you have another one that you wanted to read?
No, really, I just blew my whole ammo right there. That's the best thing we got on the site. Although I will say, every week we write a new email on. Let me log into my MailChimp because every week we try to have a new release. Although it's been a few weeks since we did, and when you write an email, well, for example, This last campaign that we sent was about our Black Friday event. And by the way, you can log in and you can. Oh, good. So we did one on Wednesday about how we were cheating about Black Friday by going early. So we said, "Hooray, impatience! For Black Friday begins now," because again, honesty. But we tried something silly on this next one. This one just says the world's shortest Black Friday announcement, and it says, "You're busy." Person's name. So here's the world's shortest Black Friday announcement email. It says, "Hi, today everything's on sale. You'll be happy if you buy stuff. Bye." And then that's it. And then it goes, "P.S. Oh, wait, I should have clarified. When I say everything's super cheap, I'm not talking about the build quality of the products. John and I actually really pride ourselves on finding wonderful, well-produced, and finely packaged novelties and tools. The perfect gear for the modern rogue. I'm just saying that across the store, we've massively discounted every single item so that one day you can knock out all your holiday shopping, etc., etc., etc. PPS. Oof, good point. It's all fine and good for me to wave my hands and say bargains over here, but it doesn't really do much to inspire or motivate, does it? Here, fine, check out these tasty samples. PPPS. See that? Lowest prices we've ever had in the bad boys." And then I explained that, and then I'm like, PPPPS. Crap! I forgot to mention the free book thing, didn't I? A bunch of details on getting a free book with everything, and then it goes, "All right, finally, it's all wrapped up in the world's shortest email." And then it's like, PPPPS. Damn it! Dang it! Ding dong doodly doo-wop. Yes. I should tell you about this other thing coming up. And then it keeps on going. And then finally there's a PPPPPPS. Holy crap, that's right. There's a video where I explain all this stuff. So technically, it was a very short Black Friday email that hopefully made people laugh as it got longer and longer.
No, that is definitely great. And then, yeah, man.
And that's, I think that you kind of trying to touch on what we just said before is that like what Justin did with the contender, where you get a response from the contender, and what you guys do, all your interactions are product. All of your interactions are part of the experience. And I remember back in the day when I ordered something from, I think it was Penguin Magic, and I liked the fact that, they had there was extra item in there, or there's something else in there, like a DVD, just the idea oh wow, there's another little joyful surprise in there, which is, good marketing sense. But when you have really strong personalities like you guys do to make that go all the way through into overflow, you increase the interactions. And it's people make fun of unboxing. Well, part of the reason we like unboxing is that part of the personality of the device or the toy or whatever is in the presentation of that.
We did do one thing this Black Friday to let people know. It's been interesting because, with the Contender now, we're still vaporware technically. Like, we're still a concept of like Cards Against Humanity plus politics. Like, is probably the most attractive way that people can do it, and we've done very well with it. We're actually featured in the realsimple.com's gift guide for the holiday season. We're one of their picks for what you get your boyfriend if he's into politics. So if you have a boyfriend who's into politics, then get really girlfriends
too. A girl that liked politics, but
it's such a real simple way.
F buddies.
I'm not dating anybody right now.
Those are good. Literally anybody. If you say Ralph Nader and they know what there's going on, then they're gonna really be excited. But we wanted to. We launched the site. We officially turned on. We were accepting orders because as of Thursday, or actually probably Wednesday, we got a word from our manufacturer that the boxes of the Contender, the decks of the Contenders, are officially boxed up on pallets, ready to go on Monday. So it is the earliest that we can, without lying, say that everything is shipping, right? We are shipping from the manufacturer to the fulfillment centers. The fulfillment centers will fulfill to everywhere around the country for both the Kickstarter backers and our pre-orders. So
okay, so how much of a how unclinched did your butt get now that is actually happening, given the fact that so many people bought and pre-ordered in anticipation of a Christmas release?
There will be no unclenching until I see pictures and videos of people getting this stuff online.
Which, by the way, is only happening like in the past 72 hours on the Arcana artifacts. Has finally gotten into everybody's hands on Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm just like, oh, thank goodness. It's happening.
We wanted to do a video, and you can find it on the Contender thing. So I mean, it's only 51 seconds. We can just play it right here.
Fellow Americans, this is an important announcement from the Contender. The Contender is now shipping to all 50 states of our great nation. Get the presidential party pack, which includes the 500 card base deck for hours of political enjoyment, 40 custom topic buttons, and also more. Buttons. Buy now. And the only thing you're missing, audio listeners, is just a Robert Young dancing as you've never seen someone dance before in a suit, and eventually revealed to be wearing only boxer shorts on his bottom half. It's amazing.
So the idea with that being, here's where the problem that we had, right? So we got a store that's open. We have a huge buying season, right? Starting at Black Friday. And we don't have actual decks yet in our hands, right? Everything that is being created is going to the fulfillment centers, and then eventually coming to us. But we need to announce something, right? So it's like, and also it's like, for us, we wanted to do something that was Facebook video friendly, because that is such a huge part of getting out to people and reaching everybody. So what was something that we could do that was an interesting enough visual that demonstrated that we had decks and boxes and everything. So we took one of the mock-up boxes that is what our deck will look like, right? Or does look like, but it doesn't have any cards in it. And then it was just, me being a horse's ass, dancing around and stuff like that. But hopefully it's something that, is just, we wanted a way to kind of retain the fact that it's fun and not make it just kind of the hard sell, because unlike scam stuff, we've got a product, right? Like it's really like we are a one product store with a few add-ons. And so it's like the idea is not as complicated as you guys. The problem that you guys have, and that's a good problem, is like, hey, look, there's a million different reasons to come into scamstuff.com. Really, we're just like, we're a cool card game. Everyone will like us. Come
Well,
on down.
and the important thing is that you recognize that inherent in most Kickstarter stories is the joy of success, is the characters who made it. Just as important as what the product is the story of the people who had an idea and wanted to make stuff happen. And so I feel like I missed out on something just now.
And
No,
you
I sent him an
dirty text
idea
messages.
for a special box.
Okay, all right.
It's let's say that we'll see this version of the Contender next Tuesday.
Okay, got it. So, at any rate, but I think it's important as you get closer to release, so to speak, is to remind people, like, this is what you bought. Is you bought in this moment of the idea coming to fruition, and part of what you bought is the joy of the creators seeing their idea be made flesh.
Yeah, and I don't know. You know, it's really you know, it's very, very nerve wracking. You know, now, and also it's like, you know, we've had pretty good sales. You know, for the site's been open for 3 days, and you know, we've seen a pretty good just kind of trickling of sales there. But you know, we know for a fact that it's like, it's not going to be until people get these in their hands and we can, you know, and Amazon, you know, is always going to be huge for us sales wise. We're not up there yet until we get into they won't let us push live on there until we get into the fulfillment centers. So it's like, you know, it's hard. And it doesn't get any easier as we get closer to this kind of rubber meets the road. Let's see how well this thing sells. But you know, hopefully people are excited about it, and really, you know, if nothing else, nothing will be good for us unless people get these in their hands and say, you want to know what, this is a really fun game.
Yeah. Dude, that's fantastic.
Do you have any other tools? I have a couple that I would go into that as far as
tools for productivity. I live off 2 apps that I don't know how long they will still exist because Microsoft bought both of them. Wunderlist and Sunrise. Wunderlist is huge for me in terms of just being a good, simple to-do list app. It's a app on your phone. It's an app. It's a Chrome thing. It's really, really rad, and it gives you a lot of smart functionality to pin it to certain times. It's very easy to be shared. You can manage your notifications to a way that that it works. Sunrise is also a daily thing for me, and I know that's definitely getting sunset, but I don't know what Microsoft is going to replace it with or fold it
I love
into.
that. Yeah, these are these great parts of my life that I love that Microsoft bought just to shut down and screw with me.
No, I mean, from what I know, it's going to go into other similar things. They're just kind of consolidating their branding. At least I
Roll
hope.
it up into a
Satya.
less useful product.
Please, Satya, don't screw with me, because Sunrise is amazing and awesome. It's going into Outlook, which is also good. People like Outlook, the new Outlook. So anyway, you know, it's really those 2 are gigantic, and I'll just put it out there. I know it's like so de rigueur at this point, but we have the entire Contender experience has effectively been done by disparate parties on Slack since, you know, its initial conception. You know, we have probably been in the same room at the same time, the 4 of us, 5 times. And other than that, everything gets done on Slack. It is a you know, not a perfect app. I think that we are hopefully going to get to a position where not everybody wants to start a Slack, because it is hard to keep track of multiples. But when it is effective, it is very, very, very effective, and I think it is the best version of something that we have seen tried over and over and over again, from Yammer to other kind of like social media-y within the workplace productivity kind of platforms. Slack is just the one that kind of cracked the code.
Yeah, absolutely. Slack is incredible, and I was slow on the uptake of it, but yes, it's great.
I
Amazing.
used it for the first time yesterday. I got sent back and forth an email about an invite about Slack. I'm like, I kind of know what this is, but I kind of don't have any other place in my life where I'm using it, so I may miss out on something important. But then yesterday, working with a friend on a coding project, we're like, let's use something to talk. And Slack, love the way it signed up and started. I keep open almost all the time on my computer. Photoshop is usually open because I'm always tinkering around with photos. Scrivener, which I've talked about before for writing. Scrivener is if you are a novelist, long-form type of writer, whatever, Scrivener, you should invest the time into learning how to use it. It is the bomb. It is absolutely. I went, tried different things, then went back to it, and promised I would never ever leave again. For doing hand coding, I use Coda by Panic, which is just a great text editor for doing that kind of thing. I like that. And then if you want to create a website that looks pretty cool pretty quickly and you don't have any kind of website know-how smarts or whatever, I use a program called Hype, which it's a Mac app. And what it is, it allows you to create interactive websites very, very quickly. It's HTML5 compliant, but you can do animations and other stuff. Like I think last year I just whipped together something really quick for Justin for Go Home Santa. I mean, you can map out what you want to do on a napkin, and then 30 minutes later have something up and running. So there are great examples of it, whatever. But it's very much kind of a what you see, what you get based on HTML5. So I don't use it for everything. Like I've been working on a thing for like making books readable online, and I wouldn't use it for that because it's JavaScript heavy and there's a lot of preload. But for other stuff, it's great. So those are my favorite apps. Those are things I use. For collecting articles, I use Pocket.
Yeah.
Which is, great. That's where the weird things, topics come from, is things I save to Pocket. Whenever I'm like, oh, this is good or useful, I'll put it into Pocket and pull that up later on. So those are kind of my favorite things at the moment.
I would add Google Docs, Google Sheets.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Good point.
Of course. Yeah.
I use instead of Mint is I actually use a spreadsheet. I use a big spreadsheet in Google Docs. So that's where, because I go in there and map out, incoming, going out, whatever. And Mint is a great program. Mint's absolutely a great program. But I use a spreadsheet just to be able to project and stuff and all that.
Yeah, right on.
So by the way, Strengths in the chat room laments the fact that there has been no open source applications mentioned. Holler at your boy, man. I'm always looking for. I am certainly not hypercritical of it. Just let me know. Let me know if there's any open source version that is superior to anything that I've mentioned, man. I don't get provincial about this stuff. I just love the best thing that solves the problem the best.
Yeah, I think that the problem gets to be that trying to make sometimes some really advanced user-friendly stuff that are more of edge cases or niche cases is problematic and hard. And you can create, the web is built on top of some great open source stuff. Right now working on a project with a friend where we're using MySQL, but that's actually owned by Oracle. But Postgres, whatever, a lot of these technologies are, very, very much are underpin what we do. But when it comes to user apps, the problem is that these things can very, very quickly become less useful. And you look at how we're still waiting for the open source Microsoft Office killer and the different versions of stuff that's come out. They're kind of good, but they're kind of 4 or 5 years behind, when it comes to an open source, Photoshop. That's a race that just had to give up on because it's just you can't keep up. But not to say that open source is not good at all. Absolutely not. It's not the case. There's a lot of great open source stuff out there, but
absolutely
don't know what else to tell you there. I just don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
man, we went long. This is a jumbo rock block. We're over 2 hours and counting.
Yeah. Anybody have any picks?
Well, I very much enjoyed Jessica Jones. I know this is I don't want to ruin Thanksgiving dinner by talking about politics here, but I've really liked. I've enjoyed Jessica Jones.
Cool. I'm 3 episodes in. I'm on the fence. I mean, I like it, but I'm on the fence. Is like, oh, am I gonna love this? So, I want to. I want to like it a lot.
Yeah, I think you know, I would be critical. It like Daredevil, I think sometimes doesn't quite have the knockout supporting character acting that I think kind of defines other prestige sort of shows where, you know, like their 1 through 5 top of the bill actor you know, stuff is just a little bit stronger than both of those two shows specifically. And it is a show about emotions and characters and not necessarily fighting, which is at times problematic when you like just clear out, you know, it's like, oh wait, 4 people are going to fight and there's going to be a thing. And it's like just a lot of kind of cutting away from action and a lot of not really understanding what the hell's happening. And, you know, I think it hopefully in season 2, you see a little bit more of a focus on some of the actiony stuffs, but that's not really the point of the show. So it didn't screw me too much.
I have a suggestion for people, and not related to that at all. But if you take Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi right now, and you decided that you wanted to watch those leading up to the release of The Force Awakens, today is the day to start, where you watch about 20, 22 minutes a night, the same length of a half-hour episode show is broken down into. So if you wanted to watch them in serial format, a little bit each day, today is the day to start, where you end up the day before Force Awakens, having watched the Holy Trilogy.
The Holy Trilogy. Oh man, dude, I'm so pumped. It's gonna be so good. Yeah. Brian?
Fargo is a very good show, and you don't need to watch season 1 to enjoy season 2. They are anthological. They're like anthologies. Watch Fargo.
Anthological.
Boys and girls, thank you for being a part of this jam-packed episode of After Things following, well, actually the jam-packed episode of Weird Things. We got nothing. We got nothing. It's been after.
Great. Good shows, guys.
Sweet.
Thank you, Bryce.
Yeah. All right, let me save this. Let me run a title by you for Weird Things. I put The Weird Awakens.
Hate it. No, it's good.
Cool.
Hey, Justin, did you open that there email from your friend of mine, Stephen Cogswell?
Oh God, yeah, dude. We were listening to it last night.
No, I'm talking about the one that came out 30 minutes before we went live.
Wait. I don't know. Did I get it?
Let me...
Yes. Well, it should have been, yeah.
Hold on, let me double check that the team in... Yeah, no, it came out 3:43 p.m. Central Time.
So that would have been right before, because you were listening.
Oh, you know
to
what?
It, right
It did.
when I got
I'm
here.
sorry. It says 21 hours ago. My response was at 3:30, so I only saw it just before. Holy cow! Okay, good. So yeah, that is the right one.
No, yeah, the bunchum stuck.
Oh my god.
To the tune of
Thunderstruck.
AC/DC's Thunderstruck. That dude is
You know,
just a beast.
Our impression of Agnes, what's his name, is so good that I can't tell when it flips from being you to me. Like,
oh yeah,
it's the same voice.
Yeah, I definitely was listening to it, and I had sworn I was listening to Brian sing a line, and then I was like, man, well, this other line sounds like Justin. It's really well done.
Yeah.
No, it's great. He's so good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is going to do it for the live stream.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for checking us out. Hey, Justin, can you stay on the line?
I can.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.